on behalf of a town or on behalf of a company, it is signed by one person. It does not mean that those are the only people that are involved in the decision. I went to a town council meeting a month or so ago to discuss this issue during public comment, and the town council frankly tried to make me stop talking, and I chose not to. I have heard back from some members of the council lately that the TCP, meaning the town council president, has awarded a $5,000 bonus to the town manager. I was told via an email by the town council clerk on Friday, October 11th at 12:58 p.m. that I'm happy to share with everyone regarding how it works with the town council, with the town manager's bonus being taken up. And it was told to me, which I believe, is the town council members have to vote on it. I haven't heard from anyone specifically with regard to this, and I would just like to know, and I know this is not a going back and forth, but it's transparency. Has the town manager been awarded a $5,000 bonus, or hasn't he? I have put forth, the right way to do it, freedom of information requests and whatnot. I've been told by the council clerk there was going to be a vote. To my knowledge, and I may be wrong, but I've talked to 3 or 4 council members, there hasn't been a vote. I would like to know if the town manager has been awarded, which he shouldn't based on his evaluations, a bonus or not. And so again, I understand that you guys don't like to actually talk to us back and forth, but at some point, I would love to hear from someone whether or not he's been awarded a bonus.
He hasn't.
Thank you very much.
He hasn't.
Thank you. And I guess we'll discuss that at a later date. Thank you. I appreciate the response. Actually, can I ask Mr. Vecchia, who awarded him that bonus?
He hasn't been awarded one.
No, I know, I'm sorry. I thought you just said he has.
He hasn't.
Oh, no, I apologize. I thought you said he has. No, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, Mr. Gill.
Peter Gill, Precinct 5. I'm sure you guys know how I feel about the issue of Amendment Number 4. I had sent you all, I hope you saw in your email, 5 pages of signatures regarding this vote tonight, and I just received a 6th page. So there is some support for the concept, and I'll read the petition. We, the undersigned citizens of Winthrop, requested in accordance with the Planning Board recommendation to the Town Council that at this time, the CBD zoning map revision not include placing the former Winthrop Middle School and the adjacent parcels, all known as 141 to 151 Pauline Street, and that the Town Council does not vote to include those parcels in the revised CBD. Prior to any zoning change, there should be public notice and public hearings with the Planning Board and the Council. I want to thank the Council for this opportunity to be here tonight and to speak, and I want to thank the Council for this deliberation that you're taking. I also want to thank the citizens meeting run by Kurt and his group, at which that citizens meeting referred a great deal to this issue. I want to thank the councilors who were present there and who were able to hear what the citizens had to say, as well as the councilors-elect who were there that had heard what the citizens had to say. I think the key to the Planning Board recommendation is that this particular piece of property, if it's rezoned, be rezoned as a modified, and they were very firm with the word modified, Center Business District. Everyone agrees that, like Somerset Avenue parcel, something needs to be done with this parcel. The process needs to be done with two concepts that are brought up over and over again locally and nationally in regards to local governing and decision-making. Those two words two concepts are transparency, we hear it over and over again, citizen participation, we hear it over and over again. Remember the frustrations and the confusion over Somerset Ave, both by the abutters, other citizens, as well as the developers. Excuse me. Unlike the rest of the proposed Center Business District, this parcel, 141 to 151 Pauline Street, does not currently contain any businesses or any mixed use, and this parcel is not adjacent to any proposed CBD. In fact, the middle school is surrounded by residential on the border on Palmyra, as well as across the street on Waldemar and across the street on Pauline. The suggestion has been made that the council could go ahead now and put this into the CBD, and then at some point, because we now need it in the CBD to get RFPs, and then at some point change it, depending upon what the RFPs come in. That's not fair, either to the developer or to the citizens, to modify after the RFPs come in. And I may have misunderstood that, but I believe that's what I heard. Given the above, we ask the council to proceed with the motion that's on the floor now with amendments 1 through 3. They make great sense, great clarity, and they address the citizens' needs and wants. But I asked the amendment number 4 not be included. In other words, the amendment number 4 regarding the Center Business District 141 to 151 Pauline Street being put in the Center District. Thank you.
Tom Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the council. Tonight, we've got a chance to correct something that has been wrong for over two and a half years. 2.5 years ago, we saw the master plan, which had a distorted map. We found out through a study by Terry Delahanty, the lengthy legal memo, that it was incorrect. All through that period of time, I said, we need to have a map that clarifies what the actual boundaries are of the Center Business District. Those boundaries were adopted by the town meeting vote in 1987. Okay? A map that you come up with tonight, I think, ought to be limited to the existing Center Business District. Any idea of rezoning other kinds of places should follow the process outlined in the law. Chapter 48, the Zoning Act of Massachusetts, talks about how cities and towns rezone property. You public notice, you hold a hearing by the planning board, you hold a hearing by the council, you notify the abutters, you take a 2/3 vote of the council. It's the only way that you can change zoning. To have a map that shows places in the Center Business District that have never legally been placed there is misleading. If you think that there's places that ought to be rezoned, follow the process, do what it tells you to do. The issue has been, we've been out there for years asking, please clarify the existing boundaries. The attempts to do it wound up with more confusion than we had in the beginning. Fortunately, the planning board saw through all of that stuff and gave you a map that's, by and large, reflects exactly what we've been looking for. Please adopt the map of the existing boundaries and get on with other kinds of things. If you want to do something else, do it appropriately, do it after this, but please adopt the map that shows what exists right now as far as the Center Business District is concerned.
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, Wendy Millar, Precinct 2. I wanted to first and foremost thank all of you who were able to come to the citizens, we called it a visioning and sharing meeting. We had over 55 people here, which was quite impressive. And we were very, very pleased to have the future town councilors and the existing town councilors who were able to attend. We will be sharing with the town council and the town manager the notes from that meeting. so that you will have the paperwork from the different ideas and suggestions that were made. And I wanted to let you know that one of the biggest ones was communication. So that point I want to just bring out tonight, communication, increased communication. People, and I know we're working on that as a town throughout town hall and what have you, but I also wanted to point out Cheryl Howard and Frank Constantino as two people who were very instrumental in creating this entire meeting. It started as a Facebook post, and there were over 153 people who were making suggestions. And social media, I know we're working on that, gathering that information and that data, but getting those people in the room, they've requested that we hold another meeting like that again. And so whether or not that's something that the town council would appreciate, coming to again or not, the citizens are looking to have that again, and we're more than willing, the small group that put it together, to host it again. And I just wanted to thank you all and thank the people who came and were very open with their sharing.
Thank you, Wendy. Donna?
Good evening. Donna Segretti, Riley, Precinct 5. I know the map is an agenda item for tonight of the CBD. I just want to ask, I know Councilor Pete Christopher asked that the town lawyers take a look at the process that was implemented to devise this map. And it kind of dovetails, I think, on Tom's question about, are we doing this all legally? So I guess that's a question. Has the proposal for the CBD map been presented to the town attorneys? And if so, what was their response?
Yes, we have brought it to town attorneys, and yes, it was done correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
John Manning, Precinct 3.
Dawn Manning, Precinct 3. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. It was under new business. There was I'm not sure because I don't see it on the agenda for this meeting, but under new business for last meeting, it's a town council vote to transfer $5,500 from the town council reserve to the town manager's general supply. What's it for?
It's not for what people might think it was for. It was for over the last, I think, 3 or 4 years, there had been a holiday party. And that is money to be asked. The reason why it's not on the agenda this time is because the last meeting was on a Thursday instead of a Tuesday, so we couldn't post in the paper for 2 weeks. So it will be on the agenda for the next council meeting. But it's for a Christmas party, a holiday party.
Okay, well,
The request is for a holiday party.
well, the town's in a huge debt.
I'm not saying it's passed or
So with
not,
the
I'm
needs
just-
and the wants of the town, I would say that, the Christmas party be funded by whoever is wanting it, because it's a want, not a need. And when people talk about financial responsibility, that's one of them. $5,500 is still $5,500. I don't care who the party's for, but when we've done things, whoever, PTO, teachers, groups, they bring things everybody brings a dish, or I don't care who it's for. It's not a need at this point, it's a want.
Thank you. Jack Bell.
Jack Dowd, Precinct 3. I'm going to read from the open space, the Town of Winthrop Open Space and Recreation Plan. Once again, I read a paragraph or a sentence at a meeting or two, but I want to read from page 1. I'm going to read a paragraph. Oh, by the way, this document is on the town website under Grants and Economic Developments, and it's called the Open Space Plan. And the third paragraph on page 1. This open space and recreation plan is guided by the 1990 Open Space and Recreation Plan requirements for eligibility of self-help and urban self-help grants administered by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, Division of Conservation Service. It has been prepared in conformance with the guidelines in the 2001 Open Space Planners Workbook. This Open Space and Recreation Plan's acceptance by the Massachusetts Division of Conservation Services makes Winthrop eligible to compete for such funds, which the town can use for land acquisition and improvement of parks and open space. This plan is also useful as a community information resource and as a guide for government planning. And it was for the years 2005 to 2010. I think the key sentence in this paragraph is the grants are given by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. If the town or this council decides to sell any portion of Ingleside Park, the law requires to go through Article 97, disposition of land. If you do not go by Article 97, disposition of land, you put in jeopardy the grants that are administered by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. I hope you have all made yourself familiar with this document. It's very useful, and I hope you don't put any portion of Ingleside Park up for sale. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Tonight, Lisa Howard, Precinct 2, and the homeowner of a piece of property that's less than 100 yards from the side door of the Winthrop Middle School. I would like the town council to consider voting no tonight on the proposal to include the middle school and the adjacent parcels as part of the center business district. I agree that there is a need to develop the property. It has been empty for a long time, and quite frankly, my youngest is afraid that it is now haunted because it's dark and the lights go on and off when they feel like they'd like to. I would like you to consider a few things prior to your making your decision to vote. I'd like you to consider neighborhood input. I would imagine that some lessons have been learned over the year about the community's want for input from the neighborhood. I'd like you to consider the long-term effects on the huge amounts of residents that surround this parcel of land on 3 sides. I'd like you to consider the possibility that multiple units of housing could be the end result of a developer depending upon the zoning changes. And I'd like you to look at the impact that that may have on the revenue collected versus the offset of the cost of the residents that may, in fact, occupy that space if it becomes multiple housing units at some point. Before voting tonight, I would ask that each councilor consider their own knowledge of the zoning rights of the current property and the changes in those zoning rights if the property becomes part of the center business district. If you do not have a full and complete understanding of how that will change with a yes vote, I would encourage you to vote no tonight just for that very reason. And then review the zoning and potentially revisit the need for it all to be part of the center business district in the future. The impact of a yes vote without the knowledge of the impacts of a change in zoning could have a huge effect on the community as a whole. So I thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Todd Sacco, Precinct 2. I don't know if the transcript's here, but we're getting this on tape. I agree with Peter and Lisa. And I'm feeling wobbly myself.
How about Dottie?
How about who?
Dottie?
No, not tonight. Yeah, listen, that's a hell of a batting average. I want to, first of all, congratulate the newly elected town councilors and wish them well. Good luck. You're going to need it. I want to thank the outgoing town councilors who are here, not here. I don't remember who's going, sorry. As far as this Center Business District thing goes, like I said, I agree with the Gills. I want to say that again because it sounds funny and it feels good. And it's on tape. I think there may be an issue here that we have to consider just procedurally. I'm a little concerned about a couple things. One, you got a few folks going out that are going to be voting on a decision that's going to impact the town for 50 to 60 years. And of those folks going out, you've got one that really has been absent, forgive me for saying it, for a good majority of the meetings. And I just don't think it's right I know that person's not here tonight. There's also not a quorum here tonight, or there's not a full menu here, a full council. God, I'm losing my mind. But I also understand as I count the votes, as I know them, there's not enough either way. You need 6. And I don't know what that means procedurally. I did not look at that part of the charter. But the other part of it is, I think it was 2 to 3 meetings ago. There were 2 meetings and a special meeting. Mr. Christopher used his executive privilege to postpone this vote. And by the charter, it was supposed to happen the next meeting. Didn't happen the next meeting, the meeting after that, or the special meeting. What's the remedy for that? Should you be even voting on this tonight? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Good evening. Jean Coughlin, 23 Cottage Park Road, Precinct 5. I want to thank you all for everything you have done, the members that are leaving. Welcome all the new ones in, and hopefully some new energy, and we can get on with this. I'm here tonight to ask you, the CBD is on the agenda tonight. The map that we've been talking about for 3 or 4 years is supposed to be voted on. It keeps getting postponed, bounced further and further and further. Quite frankly, I know you must all be tired of it because we are very, very tired of it. I would like you to vote on it tonight. I would like to see you either, I'll use some words, either accept it, codify it, approve it. I don't care what you want to call it, but do it. I really do think so. You do need to take a little more time, apparently with the middle school, even though it has been vacant for 6 years. But I think, don't hold us up with the middle school now being involved in it. Get us done. You have, put the lines where they're supposed to belong. It's just wrong, I think, that residents and neighbors had to come together, get legal counsel, and pay a lot of money when we've elected people to do that job for us. Just, people were forced to do things they didn't want to do, but we had to do. And then finally it moved a little bit. But I really ask you tonight, I plead with you tonight, get this settled. Get it done.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you all.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes.
Hi, I'm Gregory Kersey, Precinct 1, and I agree with the last person who just spoke that this has been going on for a long time. There are 3 amendments. I agree with the Gills and some of the other people who spoke. I think that you should pass the 3 amendments. There is some small amount of doubt about the actual border of the land that the middle school is in, and I think that you should be 100% certain. There's been a simple title search, but there's still some historic records there's a trust involved and several other things. I think that you should vote on the map, include the 3 amendments, and then it would be better to deal with the middle school property later when you have 100% certainty of what the boundaries of the property are that you can use it. Personally, I think that it should be part of the center business district, but I think if there's any question about those boundaries and the research is incomplete, if you include it now, there is a possibility that somebody's going to say, well, you're a foot over into Ingleside Park, let's sue, and it could just end up causing an unnecessary complication that could be just avoided by completing the title search on all of the property in that parcel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Dottie?
Dottie D'Onofrio, Precinct 4. I have a question, if I may. With regard to the middle school, is it the intent for future development to enhance the mapping and to move forward to get the RFP out? Or would it behoove, the original plan was to go into the middle of Ingleside Park and to create the wells and to do all of the necessary things to forego the flooding of Walden and the perspective of where the middle school is? Are we putting the cart before the horse by including the middle school? Or are we entitled to say to you folks who are in charge, please hold on the middle school until you really know and get the plans going for the flooding so that you have something to offer in the development package?
Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay. Public comment is closed. Next item is committee reports, which we have none. Town manager's report.
Just briefly, an email went out from the website to everyone who receives emails from the town website concerning the water sewer rate. That was the same FAQs that were sent out earlier this year in February. We had some attention to my office and the water sewer department concerning the most recent bills, but the rate has been consistent, so we were just making sure people...
Stand up so we could hear in the back. I'm sorry, I can't hear in the back.
We sent out an email concerning the water sewer rates and the FAQs that we had sent out earlier this year. That's all I was saying. We're good. Yep.
Just a quick question to the town manager. We didn't have a Millerfield report because we didn't have a meeting last night, but asking for your help, we have 2 barrels, I believe, of diesel fuel that are on the site. One barrel, my understanding is full. The other barrel is a quarter empty or a quarter full, I guess. We're trying to get that off the site. I believe National Grid has been down there. The diesel fuel was used as a temporary heating source while it took us over a year to get National Grid because of all the emergencies they've had in the past year. We're looking for help to try to remove those barrels, and we're not sure exactly how to do it. If there's anything in the town that would like to use the fuel, I'm not sure. I know it's difficult. Maybe if the DPW director can lead us in the right direction.
I was approached with the question. I don't know the grade of the fuel. I don't know if it can be used in vehicles. I don't know if the open container is contaminated. You start putting this stuff into a diesel motor, potentially you cause damage to the motor. So I had a lot of questions on it. We don't have a transfer pump that I could go to the facility and transfer that into, easily transfer it into a vehicle. I'm happy to try to move it somewhere for you. I'm hesitant to try to stick it into a piece of equipment and potentially cause damage to that facility.
We'll look into it.
Okay, my understanding is one is sealed and one is, like Mr. Calla said, that one is open and has been used. But if we could just look into it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, school department update. The school committee met last night, November 18th at 6 o'clock at the high school. The majority of the meeting was on a report from each one of the schools regarding the MCAS results. In addition, and I would suggest and recommend that if you should check out on WCAT, check out the recording of that particular meeting. very, very interesting results on MCAS scores. In addition, there was a part of the superintendent's report. The playground equipment is fully removed, or almost fully removed, from the Arthur T. Cummings Playground. They save labor costs by having the custodial staff do the work, and they're in the process now of making the final plans for a spring installation. The water heater, the funds for the water heater for the ATC has been approved, $30,000. That'll be getting underway shortly. Old business. We have some house cleaning to do. And the first one is for an appropriation of $5,523,334 for the purposes of financing the engineering and design construction of the Winthrop Center District project. I think we voted on this about 12 times already, and I guess there's one more vote that we have to make sure that we've got our T's crossed and our I's dotted. Is that correct, Town Manager?
Yes.
On this particular motion?
It was concerning the initial notification of the meeting.
Okay. So, order that the order of the council adopted on December 18th, 2018, providing for the borrowing of $3,920,000 to pay the cost of various improvements for the Winthrop Center District project, so-called, is hereby amended in its entirety to provide as follows: that the town appropriate the sum of $5,523,334 for the purpose of financing, engineering, design, and construction of water system improvements, sewer system improvements, drainage improvements, street and sidewalk improvements, and service connections for the Winthrop Center Business District project, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. To meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow said amount in pursuant to Massachusetts General Law 44(7) and 8, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes to the town therefore, that all of any portion of the amount authorized to be borrowed pursuant to this order may be borrowed from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, and the connection therewith, the treasurer and the town manager are authorized to enter into a loan agreement and/or security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contact with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to any such loan or loans, that the town manager is authorized to apply for, accept, expend any federal or state aid available for the project or for the financing thereof, and that the town manager is authorized to expend all funds available for the project and to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received for the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of the cost approved by this order in accordance with Massachusetts General Law 44(20), thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such cost by a like amount. The total amount authorized to be borrowed by this order shall be reduced to the extent of any grants received by the town on the account of this project. Does anybody wish to make a comment? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
Make the motion.
I made the motion. I'll make the motion. Now, you're going to, after I just read it?
Yeah, you read it, and I say so moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, a roll call.
Counsel Ringman. Counsel Callow.
Yes.
Counsel Christopher.
Yes.
Counsel Boncory.
Yes.
Counsel Carino.
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco.
Yes.
Counsel LaConte.
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri.
Abstain.
President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Council President, can I ask for a short recess?
Yes.
We want to set up the projector for the map.
Okay.
And have a quick
We'll take a short recess. Okay, folks. The chair recognizes the chair of Rules and Ordinances.
Under old business, there is a motion that was carried over from the October 15th meeting. And on October 15th, under old business, the Rules and Ordinance Committee made a motion to accept the planning board's proposed map as amended by the following amendments. Amendment number 1 was to add 20 and 30 Madison Avenue to the amended CBD map. That motion, amendment motion, passed unanimously. There was a second amendment to remove number 15 and 16 Fremont Street from the Center Business District and to add number 1, 2, and 5 of Burrell Terrace and remove them from the Center Business District map. That was voted on as an amendment, and that passed 7-1. There was an amendment number 3, was to remove number 207 and number 211 Winthrop Street from the Center Business District map. That was a roll call vote, and that passed also at 7-1. The fourth amendment proposed by the Rules and Ordinance Committee was to add the middle school auditorium, gymnasium, and rink, numbered 141 through 151 Pauline Street, to the Center Business District map. At that time, Councilor Christopher used his council privilege to put this amendment off until the next council meeting. And it's now on our agenda for that vote, and then we would have to vote on all the amendments that were made on the new Center Business District map as amended, which is up on the wall before you today. So we are in an issue right now with the amendment by the Rules and Ordinance Committee. This is after the Planning Board had its meeting, we had a joint meeting, there was a public hearing. Rules and Ordinance Committee had a meeting on October 8th and came in on October 15th with these amendments. The amendment is, as I read, to add the middle school auditorium, gymnasium, and rink, number 141 through 151 Pauline Street, to the Center Business District map.
Okay, that's out of committee. No second is needed. Discussion on Amendment 4. Anyone wish to be heard? Yes, Councilor Callan.
I just want to make a clarification for everyone out there that the rink is number 45 Pauline Street, so it is not included in those addresses that are out there, just so you know that.
Jim tells us it's 151.
I think it is one.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Council?
I think over the last month, we've heard a lot of people get up and speak their minds towards the Center Business District and whether they wanted the middle school auditorium, gym, and rink in it. You know, if I see a lot of people who just are saying, let's approve what we have, and then let's attack that immediately. So for the people who want that site not to be included, I hear you. Now, if it is not included, I want to speak to the people who do want it included. Hold us accountable. If it's not in there, we're going to attack it right away. We're not done. We're not going to just let it fall apart. We're going to move on this, and I want that to be clear. So this is a positive thing. We're going to get this. We're going to get something done today, and then we're going to immediately move on to what we need to do next. And please hold us accountable to that.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yeah. Councilor Christopher.
Sure. I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten from everybody on both sides of this issue for the past month or so. And I don't want anybody to think that if I go one way or the way that I'm going, that I didn't hear what you had to say. I did genuinely listen to what everybody had to say. And I just think that we need to take those concerns when we're actually selling the property, when we're actually picking what we're going to do with the property. Last week we had that visioning session that Wendy and Kurt put on. And many people had a lot of different ideas about what we want, what should go on at the middle school site. And while everybody had different ideas, they seemingly all were not capable to be built with the current zoning that's in place. We all know that if it's not zoned as something specific, it reverts to residential A. And I think I haven't heard many proposals from anybody about building 1- and 2-family homes on that site. And I believe at this point that it should be the goal of the council to adopt the most flexible zoning that we can to keep the various options on the table that people had. I also think that it's important to contrast this site with other privately owned sites across the state. I know for a fact that prior zoning changes have left people with a bad taste in their mouth, rightfully so. A lot of things that people have said about that, and I understand the anger. I live right there too. But this is different because the town owns this site. This council would have to take an affirmative vote to sell any parcel of land that we wanted to. I don't think we should confuse zoning with use. And we have that layer of protection on anything that we were to do. Others have said that we should just have developers use SDOD zoning, and I think that method has proven to have a lot of uncertainties with that developers who've gone through the process. Having to go through a site plan review and the approval of 2 boards creates a lot of different uncertainties that are associated with it. And there are also there are maximum density requirements associated with SDOD that I think would almost ensure that any residential buildings that would go there would be bigger and more suitable for families. I've heard a lot of people in the community talk about how they don't want to have our schools be overburdened, as we're close to at a cap right now. And I think that requirement would put us in a situation where that would happen. The mixed use requirement, I understand it. I'm definitely sympathetic to the argument that we're already struggling to have with vacant storefronts in the center. But the way that it's been interpreted by our building commissioner so far has not meant that every part of a frontage of a building needs to have a commercial element. It has only been interpreted to mean that a small part of it needs to have a commercial frontage requirement. Maybe we should change that, but that's not what's in front of us right now. And there's really no ideas that I've heard, like I said, from anybody putting in 1- and 2-family homes there, and that's what we have right now. Many people have said that we should go with the planning board recommendation of creating a modified CBD zone. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We should tailor that parcel to what the community wants. But moving the middle school site to the CBD and creating a modified CBD in coming months are both possible to have happen, and we should do both. I don't love the CBD designation for many of the reasons that people have cited tonight, but I've seen over the past few years that incremental progress on this is better than no progress at all. The zoning process that we are currently about to finish tonight, and I promise you we will finish it tonight, took us 9 months to do by law, and just having a proper process in place required 9 months to do it. And if the next zoning process takes us 9 months, that's going to cost our town an estimated $160,000 to keep that building heated and with insurance and everything else. And I just think that the cost of $160,000 isn't worth it to buy us on this council another year of time to make a decision about this site. I think we should start taking into account, we should start accepting some proposals, and it's more likely that we'll get those proposals with CBD zoning in place, and that's why I'll be voting for this.
Councilor Boncourt.
I agree wholeheartedly with Peter Christopher Esquire. He's a sharp young man. And I voted for this on the Rules and Ordinance Committee because I'm tired of looking at an empty building for 6 years. It's just ridiculous that we're spending money on a building that no one is using. 2 town managers we've had. This town manager tells us that we cannot put out an RFMP unless there is a zoning. We're trying to put a zoning in tonight. Center Business District zoning. If the planning board wanted to put a modified Center Business District, because they attached it to this, in its gray design, not the full blue design, and they had attached it to the Center Business District, but we're looking for a modified Center Business District, they could have brought forward a modified Center Business District, but they didn't. So we can do that in the future. But for the present time, right now, to get the ball rolling, to get RFPs out there, to see what kind of developers are interested, what kind of private persons would come into Winthrop and build condos or hotels, or all the things I've heard by going to the citizens meeting and by looking online at what you people have written on Facebook. To get it started, you have to have it zoned, because otherwise no RFP is going out. So I would vote for this. I would ask everyone else to vote for it. I know there's some concern about the rink being included. It has to be zoned as well. But we've already passed a motion way back, probably a year and a half ago, that any development or any developer coming in would exclude the rink. That's already an ordinance or a motion that's been passed by this council. So this will not affect anybody coming in and taking our rink. They can't. We passed that motion already. I ask you to support this amendment until let's get off the pot and start doing something successful and progressive and forward-thinking in this town.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Councilor Terry.
Thank you. I want to thank the people that came forward and spoke tonight, and I want to thank the many members of Precinct 2 that came to me with their thoughts and suggestions. Just for clarification, and not that this makes it any more palatable, but the middle school was turned over to the town in January 2017. The cost, the average cost per year to keep it in the condition it's in, which I'm not applauding, is $65,000 to $75,000. So there's been a lot of different figures, a lot of different years. None of that makes it good. It's still 3 years at 65 or 70. It's still a lot of money. But I just want to make that clarification. I think there is no doubt that we owe the people, the residents that have been affected by this the most in the current Center Business District, a vote tonight to give them some clarity on issues that they've been seeking clarity for the past couple of years. I agree with Councilor Christopher that we do need a modified Center Business District, but I think we need to do that first, though. I don't believe we need to do this and then modify it. I believe we have to come up with something that is modified, that works for the residents, works for the town, and works for the future of Winthrop. I do also believe that there is, I hate to always vote on something because of a sense of urgency, but we're in an economic time where it does behoove us, if we are going to develop, to do it in a reasonable amount of time and not miss the boat, so to speak. I don't feel that it would take 9 months to get this rezoned, to come up with a modified plan that works. I don't believe mixed use is proper use of this site, but I do believe we have to develop. But I can't, in my own opinion, and I can't, it's been said many times up here that we represent the people of our district or at large. I represent the people of Precinct 2. And it has been over 95% of the people that have come up to me that have said that they wish this not to be put in the Center Business District as is. We do need development. We can't hide our heads and stick our heads in the sand anymore. We need to act. We need to be aggressive in our zoning, but we need to come up with a modified plan that works. Works for the residents, works for the neighborhood, and works for the town. I support the Center Business Project. I thank the planning board. I think they did an incredible job. I thank the administration of the town to make sure we have this in front of us. And I think the prior three amendments and the plan that the planning board approved was spot on. But I just can't include the middle school site in this plan right now.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
I just have a major concern that if we have to start from scratch and go back to the planning board and have the modified plan adopted now and come back to the council with it again, it's gonna take 9 months to a year at minimum. I don't want that building to sit there without getting something started right now.
Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. It's on Amendment 4 to add the middle school, the auditorium, the gymnasium, and rink, 141 to 151 Pauline Street, to the Center Business District map discussion. Call the roll, please.
Counselor Ringman. Counselor Callow.
No.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory.
Yes.
Counselor Farino.
No.
Counselor DeMarco.
No.
Counselor Conti.
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri.
No.
President Vecchia.
No. Now we'll be voting on the main motion with the three amendments. The motion by the Rules and Ordinance Committee to accept the Planning Board's proposed map as amended by the following amendments. Amendment number 1, adding 20 and 30 Madison Ave to the amended CBD map. Amendment 2, remove 15 and 16 Fremont Street from the Center Business District. Add 1, 2, and 5 Burrell Terrace, and remove from the Center Business District map. Amendment number 3, remove 207 and 211 Winthrop Street from the Center Business District map discussion. Please call the roll.
Counselor Ringman. Counselor Callow.
Yes.
Counselor Christopher.
Yes.
Counselor Boncory.
Yes.
Counselor Farino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMarco.
Yes.
Counselor Conti.
No.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yes.
President Vecchia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Yes.
Can I ask that the council immediately put to the planning board a request to look into a modified Center Business District plan for zoning for the middle school, auditorium, and gymnasium sites?
Certainly. I'll have the clerk put together a memo to the planning board. She's got a direct access to, as you know. Okay, nothing under new business. Public comment. Yes, Doug.
Really pleased that after over 2.5 years, we finally come to a conclusion on the map. But there was another matter that we talked about all through this period of time. A couple of years, over 2 years ago, I suggested to the council that there was an awful lot of people that didn't understand or didn't believe or support the Center Business District as it had been adopted, that the number of the residents felt that they didn't get an adequate amount of participation, and we've talked about this a lot, whether rightly or wrongly, whether people should have been paying more attention, whether people should have reached out to them. It just didn't happen. So we suggested that we try to find some way of getting all the different parties together that have different thoughts on this thing and come up with something. I think I talked about developing some kind of broad consensus on the matter. But that was a long time ago. We continued to ask for that. Nothing happened. So in May of 2018, we filed a petition. The charter talks about public participation. When I was on the Charter Commission, we unanimously agreed there should be some way of people addressing issues and bringing them to the council. One way is to get a petition for 50 signatures, 50 people. The council has to act on the matter in 90 days and take the subject up. Well, the council didn't act in 90 days. The council waited 260 days and just cavalierly dismissed the petition without having any discussion on the merits. But going back a few months before that January vote, in October, over a year ago, we were told that this review was going to take place. We're going to do this. It's going to happen in this fashion. First, it was going to be the Planning Board and the Board of Appeals. Then there was going to be a committee. There was, in October and November. In December, there was a timeline given to the council. It said, as part of the master plan review, re-engage with the public to get their input on what's important to them. Inclusive meetings facilitated by either the town personnel or consultants of a town choosing would incorporate these sentiments into the master plan revision. Timeline, begin January 2019. Moving ahead, we continually receive the promise. When the council council dismissed the petition, we're told we're going to deal with it. In March, we were told that we were going to deal with the subject matter. In April. In June, I came back to the council and I said, look, I know that you've been looking to the town manager to conduct this review, but I don't believe it's going to happen unless the council takes charge of this. That was in June. It just hasn't happened. I just find it awful that we would get this repeated promise to do something. Now, I've been part of town government for an awful long time. I don't have any parallel anywhere that I've seen where there's been such prevarication, such distortion. We've been told it was going to happen. It hasn't happened. I just don't understand why we were promised over and over again that it would happen, and we're at this point right now without any method of dealing with the subject matter.
Be heard. Okay, there was a public comment. We're going to adjourn the town council meeting and go into the long forum. Motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have
it. Good evening to everyone still in attendance. Anyone who wants to take a seat, feel free. I am going to get started. Again, my name is Austin Faison. I am still the relatively new town manager of Winthrop. It's been a year now and some change. I kind of got to reflect back on the past year of my time here in putting this presentation together, and it was very interesting to me to see some of the parallels and with last year, and also some of the real progress that we've made concerning the goals that I set out to do a year ago today. You good? You want to go full screen on that again? Exit it. There we go. Just do the slideshow. Just go to, it's fine. There's copies out for everyone if they want to see them. We got a funky projector here. All right, so again, starting with the reflection on the past year, we will detail the financial state like we did the last year. We will go through the fiscal 21 budget and what we are looking at, and then I have a couple of departmental updates to give as well. Next slide. So, a year ago, I talked about a few things that I was interested in doing for the town. This slide actually represents, other than the turnovers of the council, the same information from last year. But we have made progress on every single one of these. A new budget process was put in place last fiscal year. I made it very clear at this time that that was important to me. We have that in place, and we're going to be pursuing our second iteration of a new and more dynamic budget process. Number two, we have had turnover on the town council. Some of it tragic and unexpected. Some people moved out of town. To the new counselors who are here, I saw Ms. Honan leave, but Mr. Ruggiero, I'm glad to have you here. And we're excited to start with a fresh set of eyes on some issues in January and kind of hit the ground running. I think that's pretty clear from some of the mandates put on the table tonight. Center Business District Infrastructure Project, with that vote tonight concerning the financing, We are ready to finalize our low bid and begin the process of bringing on the general contractor to do the work and begin some of the public process concerning the phasing of the project and things like that. We have some new internal processes that are happening on my side concerning the management and how we are both trying to limit the liability of the town legally and financially, but also just set up a more professional operation internally. We received an MVP action grant with the MAPC this past year for resilient zoning. We are looking to set the model for the entire state concerning zoning and the interaction with the waterfront. I brought this up during the budget process, and I brought this up a little bit last year. If climate is not important to you in this room and you live in Winthrop, it needs to be. People will need to raise their houses at some point who are on the water. The way we build things, the way we move around this town are going to be things that will need to be attended to over the next 10, 20, 30 years. But if we are not making every single decision with that in the back of our minds, we are doing a disservice to the people of the future that live in this town. So when we think about the Ingleside project, that is basically important for the future viability of that being a habitable area of this town is the way that we should be looking at that. Same thing with Morton Street and our beaches. We need to be looking at our zoning at that level to dictate how our properties are built, because we cannot continue to build them the way that they were built previously in this town. Those houses will fail eventually, unfortunately. Lastly, the increased transparency. I have talked about it publicly, and I will continue to talk about it publicly, that I want this town and the government to be as transparent as possible. We are putting in new models into place so that we can pursue those goals. But kind of coming up in the next slide, I'll detail some of these additional efforts that we're making towards transparency. Although the process was long with the zoning map for the Center Business District, I believe that is an example of increased transparency. We are trying to have these conversations publicly. No decisions are being made in my office by me alone, or me and Ron making decisions, or anything like that. That is not my job. My job is to facilitate the government working and support the council and inform them when they vote and make decisions. So the fact that we got to the point tonight that the council was able to vote on a map concerning the Center Business District is progress in my mind. And it does speak to the increased transparency that we are providing. I know there are going to continue to be discussions concerning communications from my office and the town out to the public, but we are trying our best, and we are trying every day to figure out better ways to communicate with the public, because we are not doing our jobs if we are not trying to anticipate what the public is looking for, set expectations with the public, and then assess ourselves based off of the mutual expectations that we have with the public. Next slide, Anna. Thank you. So, and I know this is little, but for people who have printouts, the modernization of the management of services. I talked about having web-based applications last year. And to date, we have OpenGov in place. Viewpoint we are bringing online concerning our permitting. C-Click Fix is available. It's on the town website, and I'll be hitting that later. Granicus, Denise is going to be, she used it for the agenda tonight. We will be using it in our next meeting in the council chambers. We are modernizing the way that we create our agendas and produce our minutes so we can do this quicker for the public, and we are also within all of our legal ramifications of public notice and open meeting law and things like that. Next request is something that we have out of Carla Vitale, our clerk's office, concerning public information requests and streamlining those requests, but also giving records online. I want the community to realize some of the public information requests that have come in and some of the wealth of information that we have made available to the public. I want the public to also understand that there are costs that come with some of these things. Saying a blanket request of a large amount of information may come with a price. This is not necessarily things that we have tangible in our hands. So we are going to continue to make these public on this website, and we will continue to talk about how frequently certain ones are being asked for. And again, this is to make it easier for people. If someone has a question that's a public information request, there's a good chance that maybe someone else asked the same question and that information is available. So instead of it being hard on Carla's office and her going through previous requests for things, it's on the website. You save yourself a little time and a call, and we can make it clean. in terms of data represented on the town's website, and that would be incorporated into the budget. We are going to be incorporating additional metrics into the next budget. We are working our way through some of the data that we have internally, but we do have some data sets that we should be able to utilize in the next budget. Again, though, these things are from my slides last year, so I'm just repeating the same things that I said last year and ensuring that we are making progress on these items. We continue to have the conversations of what do we want to spend money on and how do we prioritize our services. We want the data to have those discussions. And then when we make a decision one way or the other, we have the data to support our decision. And then if the data changes, then we can change our thoughts on things, but we cannot continue to go off our gut instincts with things. We're going to look at the data and figure out what's happening and what can best help this community. So again, that was very important to me last year. We've brought all of these systems online in the past year. It may not be as many systems that come online in the next year, but it's going to be further manipulating those to better provide services to the public. Next slide quickly. So the website was refreshed. That was one of the things that I did. And hitting on some of these things and making it easier for people. The budget, right there, right on the front of the page. See, click, fix. You want a work order request with DPW, right on the front page. Right in the middle there, public records request, right on the front page. These new things that we're putting in, we're trying to be as transparent as possible and make it as few clicks as possible for when you reach the website that you want to know something, it's a click or two to get there. And we're trying to shorten that amount of time and also provide information so that you can have access to the information 24/7. My department heads can't be on call for every single issue that comes in 24/7, but we can make this information accessible to the community 24/7. So we're working very hard to even look at how this is set up and how people interact with the website. I had brought up Zen City previously. You had brought that up. The real problem with Zen City that I'm dealing with is that we have too many private groups in town. Until the private groups want to open themselves up and share this information, they're being left out of this. And that's what I need help with. So anyone who wants to help out with that, feel free to contact my office. We can get this set up. I can talk to you about the Zen City things. But until we get into these private groups where I know some of the things being said, and some of it I'm better off not knowing, I think. But I want to make sure that information is represented in the public dialogue. Because again, there's things that happen in these meetings, there's things that happen online, there's things that happen when there's a citizens event, and we want to encompass all of those into the conversation. So we're doing ourselves a disservice if we're kind of cutting people out from one or the other. Next slide, please. So, see click fix. This is if you go to seeclickfix.com/Winthrop. You can use it on your phone, your computer, your iPad, whatever. You can also download the application on your phone. It comes up. I just looked at it earlier today, and it was 705 issues that had been attended to, or reported in and attended to. It's working, and you can see the map of where requests are. You can see the types of requests that are coming in. We want to operate off of these types of things into the future. We want to know if there is one part of town that's super negatively impacted by potholes, for example, one winter. Or we want to know where maybe we're having an infrastructure issue that is not necessarily popping up other ways. If these requests come in, we can then analyze them with the work and try to spend everyone's money more effectively. So it's on the town website, right on the home page. And again, worst case scenario, you can call into DPW and they will enter a work order for you as well. But we just want people to know that we're trying to use this as much as possible so that we can add a level of transparency, and then everyone will get a ticket number for a request or a standardized answer that attends to the request so that we can find some resolution with some of these requests. We don't want them hanging out there, and we don't want people to feel like they've been forgotten. So this is why we want to utilize this type of more modern system. Next slide, please. So next request is another one. Again, this is our public information request website. It's right linked on the web page. Is it Winthrop.nextrequest or nextrequest.com/Winthrop?
Next request.
So nextrequest.com/Winthrop. We have a fair amount of FAQs on them. I won't go, Carla did a great job of giving me some FAQs. I think they'll actually, I don't want to read them, so I think they make more sense on the website. If anyone has any issues with submitting a public information request, please let my office know or Carla's office know. But we're trying to do this and make it as easy as possible. Again, we want to make it easier for Carla's office, but we also want to be responsive to these requests and have the information in an easier to decipher way that people can actually understand the information that's already been provided. Carla's office doesn't need to duplicate this work. We can do it once, it can be there, and we can point people towards it. So we really, really, really want people, instead of emailing my office or Carla's office saying, I'm making a public information request for X or I want X information, we set up a system to make it nice and clean for everyone, and we hope everyone would pursue this system, because for us, there's legal parameters around it and there's timing things, and we want to just make sure we're doing it right. And doing it within this system can ensure that we do it correctly. Anything you think I should hit on that, Carla, or did I do it justice?
You did it justice.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please. So Win 2030, I had referred to it as Winthrop 2030 last year. It's Win 2030 now, we're streamlining things. We are working with MAPC concerning a visioning document coinciding with exactly the work that you're doing for Winthrop to look forward towards 2030, excuse me. This document is somewhat narrative. It's going to be small. It's only going to be maybe 10 pages with some metrics in the back of it. This is not going to be a comprehensive master plan for the town. This is going to be a discussion about number of units of housing, for example. What is the range that the community can come to a consensus on for 10 years from now? Is there any range that's acceptable? I don't know if 0 will work for the entire region, but can we work on a number? Can we work on a number of potential jobs created? Those types of metrics. We're trying to look at what do we think that this community could be in 10 years? From that visioning document, which with MAPC and a public process, MAPC will be coming and running visioning sessions and to share it and those types of things and try to engage with different parts of the community that may not have come out previously. This document will then lay the foundation for a town-wide master plan. These conversations that we've been having in my time here have really shown me that a master plan is needed for Winthrop, and this is not a short process. This is an easily 2-year process to undertake. But Winthrop needs, as a community, and people need to come together to decide what you want Winthrop to be. It can't just be on the council. It's not remotely on me. The community needs to decide what the community wants it to be, because I should not be dictating what is the most beneficial path for Winthrop. I've been presented with 500 ideas, and 500 ideas have their own reasons for being feasible or unfeasible. But what I need and what the council needs is the community to come together and make some calls. Are we going to try to hit the wave of development that was discussed today? Are we going to go back to being a vacation community that it was in the past? Are we going to try to attract businesses? Again, the community needs to go through a process and decide these things, because through a master planning process, you then decide zoning, and that is what dictates how the community moves forward. So this community, it's very clear to me, needs to go through the process of a town-wide master plan. And that master plan would incorporate the center business district zoning. It would incorporate, hopefully, some of this resilient zoning that who knows if it will be proposed at the time or if it will be incorporated. But the town, in my estimation, desperately needs a master plan. It needs to go through, this is a community healing process that needs to happen. The community needs to come together and set some parameters of how you want to move forward, because it doesn't, my office, it does no justice for my office to make these decisions for everyone. This is
your community, and I want you all to be on board with what is going forward with your community. So this is going to be a long process. I believe Win 2030 will be a document that we can have by the end of this fiscal year or early fiscal 21. The master plan, I would say we're not looking at being completed, let alone the cost side of it, but you're not looking until potentially calendar 22 or 23. So it is a long process that this community will be taking on to get to that point. Again, my office is working to set the table to get the community to this point to start making some of the decisions. Next slide, please. So, financial statement. I have our CFO, Anna Friedman, here. I'm going to run point on the slides, and she's going to hit on a couple things.
Can everybody hear me? I have a terrible cold and I'm not that loud to begin with, so if you can't hear me, please wave and I will speak louder. So I'm here just to present a brief overview of our revenue projections as we are getting ready to begin the FY21 budget preparation, which is a conversation about our revenue at this time of year is required by the town charter. I will be as quick as possible because I know this part is not as exciting to everyone as it is to me. And so as part of these projections, we thought it would be helpful to make sure that we provide to the community and to the town council a high-level summary of our major sources of revenue. And so first and most important of those is property taxes. This slide, if you can see it in between the flashing on the screen, it demonstrates that our assessed values continue to rise in the town. And so this results in really important so-called new growth, which is critical to the town's budget. FY19 was a particular banner year for new growth. More information about updated new growth numbers will be coming forward, I believe, in December at the tax rate classification hearing. Next slide. And so just to give folks sort of a kind of 30,000-foot perspective on property taxes in town, those that have printouts, there's a little bit of a typo on the first bullet there that should say 65% and not 85%. So approximately 65% of funding for the town's budget comes from local property taxes. If you add in state aid, it's 80. Those two sources of funding account for 80% of the resources available for the town's budget. Property taxes, of course, are limited by the parameters of Proposition 2.5, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But to give folks an idea of where taxes stand for the town, the 2019 average single-family tax bill was $6,145. And so as you can see, if you can catch it while it's blinking, that has ticked up over time in terms of the average single-family tax bill. Could you go to the next slide, please? And so just for some perspective on this, while average single-family tax bills have grown each year, property values are increasing at a faster rate. So thus the average single-family tax bill as a percent of the average single-family assessed value is actually decreasing, which is interesting. These slides are sourced, just so folks know, directly from the Department of Revenue's website. So if you ever want to go in and look at this more closely, you can go right onto the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, and there are all these dashboards and trend charts and tables if you want to take a second look at this. Next slide, please. So to provide some additional information on this, just for the community, the capacity between our current levy limit and the levy ceiling has continued to increase, and so I'll talk about those two terms in a second. We have almost no excess levy capacity within our current levy limit. It's about a couple $1,000s a year, so when the tax rate is set, it's pretty much set up against our levy limit. But this slide is indicating that there is capacity within our current levy ceiling. And so just for a reminder for those who are watching, who are probably not experts in the Proposition 2.5 statute, the proposition, the statute places constraints on how much, on the amounts of the levy that a city or town can raise and how much it can be increased from year to year. So there are two types of levy limits. The first is that a community cannot levy more than 2.5% of the total full and fair cash value of all taxable real and personal property in the community. So that's the levy ceiling. The second, a community's levy is also constrained in that it can only increase by a certain amount from year to year. It's usually about 2.5%, and so not including new growth. So when folks generally think of Proposition 2.5 and the 2.5% that goes up every year, you're normally thinking about the levy limit, which is generally pretty much automatic. And so what this slide is showing is that while Winthrop was right up against its levy limit, There is capacity at the levy ceiling, and so if for some reason the community was to decide at some point that it would like to have an override for whatever reason, there would be capacity to accommodate one. Currently, there's just under $34 million in override capacity, and that represents basically half. And so half of the ceiling is currently available in capacity for taxes. This is just for information purposes only, so that the community has this information. Next slide, please. So moving on from property taxes, another important local source of revenue are our local receipts. Most important of these is the motor vehicle excise tax. This has been performing well recently, and we expect it to continue to trend well. But this is an area where we closely monitor because it can be an indicator of a sign of a recession. People stop buying cars when things get tighter, and so we'll keep a close eye on that. But as of right now, we're projecting continued strong motor vehicle excise sales for FY20, for the rest of FY20 and into FY21. Next slide, please. So this graph is similar to a graph I believe that Austin put up on the screen in front of folks last year. It's telling the same story. It just looks a little bit different this year because it has some different colors. But what this graph is assuming is that is demonstrating, since tax revenues are only growing 2.5% each year, and our other largest source of revenue in local aid, it typically has been only growing about 2.5% to 2.6% each year. That then means that the budget cannot afford inflationary increases of 3% or something above that. It's simply the math for that does not work. And so this is demonstrating that the budget will increasingly be tighter for departments to deliver services to the community because we're only able to raise so much in revenue year over year. And just for those that are interested in the finer details of the graph, it's using FY20 as a starting point, and it assumes approximately 34.8 in total property taxes for FY21, so that's 2.5% increase. And it assumes a continued increase of 2.6% in local aid, which is what we received in FY20, and an increase of 1.5% for local receipts, which has been what we typically bake into the budget each year. And so, note, the gap is actually really a little bit bigger than this because in FY20 we've had to take steps to make sure that the budget is balanced, which is a requirement. And so there are things that departments are going without. I know the school committee, for example, passed a budget that was higher than what was ultimately provided for in the FY20 budget. And so those are things that aren't necessarily captured here because our starting point is a balanced budget. However, there are unmet needs that are already unmet this year that would continue to be unmet as those lines continue to diverge. Next slide, please, Austin. So we had hoped to give you an exciting preview, but it looks like the internet does not want to cooperate unless it looks like we're on there. While you're pulling that up, we were hoping to preview for you, and maybe we still can, for the FY20 budget development process for the town manager's budget. We are going to utilize a dynamic website for the budget book. This is going to give us an opportunity to visualize the impacts of budget proposals and decisions, and we're hoping that this will help increase transparency with the community on the town's financial plans. And so, if we can get it to pop up, maybe. Oh, we can. Excellent. Okay, fantastic. So I know that Austin has been mentioning on multiple occasions, and particularly at the Fall Forum last year, that we're utilizing a new platform called OpenGov to develop the capital and operating budgets for the community. A lot of that work has been happening internally, and this year we're going to have a chance to show off more about what it can do, and so the community can see more about what we're doing. So we're going to show an example of an interactive budget book that the community of East Providence, which unfortunately this is going to be a... What was that?
Where do you want to go?
You can click on really anywhere. If you want to do the intro or any of the pages. So the city of East Providence, we're actually going to improve upon what they've done here, but we're going to take our budget book that's a 200-page document that you have to flip through to find what you're looking for, and we're going to break that up into these individual pages. We'll be able to quickly click on a link, go to the page for a department if you're interested in what that department's budget looks like, and there will be embedded charts and tables where you'll be able to click on information in the charts and the tables, and it will take you into more charts and tables related to that department. If you want to do a deeper dive on something, there's a reporting functionality within this website that will let you poke around and look up information that you are interested in. And we just think that this will be easier for folks to digest the content of the budget rather than having to flip through the giant document with multiple tabs. And it will also save us money and reduce our environmental footprint instead of printing out many, many copies and binding a number of 200-page booklets. And as part of this, we're also developing what's known as an open checkbook functionality. And so if you're interested in knowing how much a certain vendor is paid or what, it allows you to dig deeper to see how the town spends the taxpayers' money. So we're excited to show you more about this when we roll out the town manager's budget. And we hope that folks will find it useful and informative. And I think it's back to you also.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. So this is an updated budget process slide in fiscal 20. These timeline was a little different, but right now we're in November. The department heads are currently submitting their capital requests and operating requests. In January, with the new council, we're going to do a goal and objective setting exercise. We will be creating the budget internally, and we will be working with the schools to provide balanced documents. In March, again, I plan on presenting the budget to the Finance Committee and Town Council. And then over March, April, and May, we will have another series of public hearings concerning the budget and departments at the Finance Committee and Town Council. So generally the same system as last year. The changes will be more around the potential usage of a web-based interactive budget and looking to get some people out of the books and more onto a tablet or a phone or however they like to interact with information. Next slide, please. So again, this is what I committed to this last year. I'm still committed to it. We're going to have a balanced budget by mid-March. Same thing as last year. We're going to get to a number, and it will be based off of the governor's proposed budget. We may be able to take House 1 into account, but probably not. And those things will be amended in due time as things are voted on at a different level of government. Metrics are going to be involved. Goals and objective and metrics will be the guiding measures of potential outcomes. A lot of stuff from last year, and again, the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. We weren't going to get that this year, but we submitted for it. But we want, and what was more important to us were the comments of where we were falling short. Right now, the GFOA does not accept interactive budgets. That doesn't fit their award categories right now, but there is a growing number of individuals like myself that are pushing GFOA to accept interactive budgets. In our minds, this is a waste of paper, and it's easier for people to interact with the information if they're able to search through the document, click around where they're interested. We're trying to make it easier for people to understand rather than these large 200 to 700 page books of paper. So from my end, that's most of my stuff. We have some departmental updates to hit on, and we have some of the department heads here as well if people have questions. Really, what's most important to me is that, again, I've been here about a year and a half now. We have been working hard as the municipal government of Winthrop to provide the highest level of services that we can. We hear the community about some of these hard decisions that the community has to make, and we are trying to live within as conservative as a budget as possible. We are not looking at frivolous expenses or anything like that. You know, the things about me and things like that don't necessarily matter in the long run, I think. What matters is Winthrop get itself into a strong financial position and be able to continue to operate. What Anna alluded to is something that we all need to reconcile with this year, in that the school budget for last year was $2 million requested over what was funded, and that was for a level service budget.
On my town side, we didn't really calculate that number, but that's hundreds of thousands of dollars as well for level service. So we're reaching a point, those lines aren't going to get any closer together in terms of expenses and revenues. The only way to make those work in terms of expenses is looking at cutting services and talking about cutting core services. So I've talked about this previously, and it's not my position to petition for anything like this, but the community needs to make some decisions about what our priorities are for paying for. The community needs to make some of the decisions concerning about what type of community it wants to be going forward, but these are large millions of dollar differences that we have compared to what we are funded and what my department heads have to spend on the services that they provide to you, and the amount that the department heads are asking for to provide the level of service that they're looking to provide. So, you know, we're trying to thread that needle at every point in time, but my department heads have done a tremendous job in the past year of supporting me in my office, getting on board with all of these absurd changes that I've put on them, I would say. But they're coming along for this ride because I think a fair amount of my department heads know, and the staff internally, that we're trying to take Winthrop in the right direction. And the way that we can do that as the municipality is to provide a higher level of professionalism and transparency. And again, put out a balanced budget. I talked about in my interview, my first interview that was public here, was I would fix your budget. And I have done that, and I will continue to do that. Beyond that, in my mind, it is all gravy, but we have things to work on. I know there are other important things to work on in Winthrop, and we are going to continue to work on those things. So to my department heads, thank you very much for kind of dealing with me. The community, I appreciate all of the public input on a multitude of issues. Again, people may think that they don't see eye to eye with me on topics, but again, I'm not the one to be convinced in any of these discussions. I am just working to inform the council to the best of my abilities, and then they are the ones who ultimately make these votes. So I hope that although people have opinions of me, that they realize that I'm not the one who's going to change Winthrop's path forward. This is for Winthrop to decide, and I want to put Winthrop in the position to decide it. What I can do is try to make sure the money is in order and make sure that we're limiting our liability. So with that, I thank everyone for their time, and we have a couple departmental updates. First, I'm going to have, can you go ahead 2 slides, please? Dave Rodriguez with a quick CBD infrastructure update, being that there was a significant vote that happened.
Thank you, Austin, and thank you, Anna, and thank you, Council President Vecchia. This has been an issue that's been before the town for quite some time, and we're very excited to start moving the process forward. Director Steve Cal has really been the laboring oar on this in making sure that we continue to move forward and we can make the improvements that the center so badly needs. Tonight there was that procedural vote that authorized that final chunk of funding just to do that. It was just a technical vote that we're able to move forward with through the State Revolving Fund, the Clean Water Trust. Now that we're going to be able to issue a notice to award to the apparent low bidder. That was the result of the RFP process that was undertook over the summer. And after that contract was done and we're able to execute an effective contract, we're going to go back to the public with the contractor. And we're going to engage with them. And we're going to say, this is what you can expect. This is what you'll expect to see. This is what the impacts will expect to be. We want to engage with businesses. We want to engage with the public, just so they understand. The cake is effectively baked in a lot of ways when it comes to design. The design is what the design is. There's going to be very subtle changes that are made, but we want folks to understand what that looks like and understand what the impacts are going to be, and so that it is going to be painful. It is going to be a hard change for the folks down in the center. And we look forward to working with Councilor Christopher and some of the other local officials down there to make sure that our businesses are resilient, that they're able to absorb this, they're able to thrive throughout this process, so that at the end they're able to be even better than they were before. So we're excited to get shovels in the ground. I know Steve certainly is. He's been pushing for this for a long time. It's so badly needed. We're very excited to do it. We're excited to engage with the public. We hope the public gets excited too. And we look forward to speaking with everybody and letting people know exactly what they can expect. So thank you again, Austin. And if you ever have any questions regarding this project or any other issue, please feel free to stop by. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Ro, do you want to hit yours?
Yes.
Come on up.
I'm not shy. I used to be shy. I'm doing okay. And then I joined the Army, so that got rid of the shyness. So for those that don't know me, I'm Ro, Trail Females of Kelly, Veteran Services Director for the town of Winthrop. And I mean, I'm not going to read my slide, but you can see how many veterans that I serve in Winthrop. And I'm blessed. This is my favorite job next to being a mom, of course. And last year alone, I submitted over 100 claims. I received a monument grant for the second year in a row, which is unheard of. But they said because I asked for so little, that's why they gave it to me. And that was to restore the 2 monuments at either end of the beach. And we have a gentleman in town called Greg Kersey who does our monuments. There you are, Greg, I didn't see you. And he does a phenomenal job, and they're all beautiful, all the work that he's done. So, and he charges us the bare minimum. The rest is a labor of love for him, because he lives in our town. So that's what he brought up to me. We run several events during the year. The most recent one was the Veterans Day event. And then the Elks provided lunch for anybody who wanted to go. So our monthly food bank, we don't refuse anybody food. So anybody who needs food is more than welcome to come to our food bank. It's usually the first Wednesday of the month. It's supposed to be veterans only, but if you're connected to a veteran in any way and you need food, then I will not refuse you. So I wanted to get to the last bullet, which was the VA money back to Winthrop. So a basic claim that I do when a veteran or a surviving spouse walks to my office is a minimum of 24 pages. That's with filling everything out. The aid and attendance claim that people hear all about on the news about for surviving spouses, that is about 90 pages from start to finish. Okay, that's why veterans don't do their claims, because the paperwork is daunting. So last year, 2018, we just got these statistics the other day. There are 269 veterans, surviving spouses, or dependent children receiving $335,000 each month, to a total of a little over $4 million. That for them. And that's benefits that they deserve, that they've sought out to get. We try to take care of our veterans who are not doing so well. We've had a number of deaths this year of veterans. For a while, I felt like I was going to a wake or a funeral every other day. So our population is dying, our older population of veteran, but also our younger population is too. So part of my duties with this office is to tend to the veterans that are coming back now and try to help them the best way I can. So case in point, while I was in Florida, I got a call from a concerned dad who was worried about his son taking his life. So I encouraged him to call the police to get his son's services, or else I was going to cut my trip short to come home to take care of that for him. That we just need to do a little bit more with caring for our veterans, and I think we as a small town do that. We respect each other and we help each other. But I encourage veterans or their surviving spouses to come forward and to see what they are entitled to. If a veteran dies from his or her service-connected disability, the spouse is automatically, if he or she does the paperwork, is automatically awarded $1,700 a month in survivor benefits. Okay, so it's something to look into. If you're a veteran, you should be proud of it and come forward. My veterans say they don't want to take it away from the other people, other veterans who need it more. Well, everybody has their own pot, and the VA is counting on you not to take your pot. So that's why I push and push and push for veterans to get their benefits. This way, veterans who are in need, who are of limited means, won't come back onto my other roles, which is the Chapter 115 side of the house, which is a benefit for low-income veterans. So the more I can get them and help them, the VA side, the federal side, doesn't cost the town of Winthrop any money, and it helps them, and that's tax-free money for them. So do you have any questions from anybody in the group? Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Diane, would you like to come up and do your slides, or you want me to handle them? Come on up. Take credit for your work.
Hi, I'm Diane Wallace, Director of the Library. I just wanted to highlight some of the things we were able to do with our town appropriation this past year, past fiscal year, and just let you know that, like the town manager said, it's your town and your decisions. It's your library, and we wanted to hold the programs that you want us to hold. If you have things that you think should be going on and it's not, give me a call, or you can, I have new trustees starting, and several that are remaining on the board. You can talk to them. We're here for you. We're very busy these days with lots of programs. We're always working on new ones. We'll be having Winthrop Engages again in May, and we had a great turnout for that. We'd like to see that grow. If you'd like to have a book group or a movie, or use a meeting room, we doubled the use of the meeting rooms this year by outside groups, and we only have the 2 little rooms. So give us a new building. No. That's it. Any questions? Come by, check us out on Facebook, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I want to thank everyone who came. Just lastly, though, let me ask a quick question. Who works for me or is elected by the town in this room right now? Who works for the town or is elected by the town right now? Elected or work for the town? You're on there, Diane. Put your hand up. All right, elected or work for the town. Now put your hands down. Who doesn't fit into that category? This is why we need to have these public discussions. We should not have more people from my staff in the room when there was a great meeting previously and then have it turn into this later on. To have these real conversations, we need as many people in the room as possible. So this is more to the people at home. Come out, come to the meeting. To the people who left, come back, stay, deal with all of the issues. We can't keep dealing with these things by what impacts you and what's happening next door to your house. We need as many voices in the room for as many of these issues as possible, because I do not want people to continue to say that they could not engage in the process. People need to come out for these public meetings. This is important, and when we come to the point that we're making some of these decisions, I want to make sure that people's voices are included. So for everyone at home or anyone who left, just think about it next time, come out, come to the budget hearing, things like that. Please engage in these processes, because this is how this community needs to move forward. We need more people engaged. I look at the voting numbers from a couple weeks ago, and they're low. And we just need more people coming out and coming to the table and trying to participate. Because the worst thing is having your electeds make the decisions for you and then coming and questioning your electeds afterwards saying, why did you make that decision? Let's engage in the public process as early as and frequently as possible, because this is your town. I want you all engaged in this process. So again, thank you to everyone for putting up with me for another year. I appreciate your time and listening to the presentation, and let's go forward to another great year. Thank you.